Well, I decided to add to the Soul Relationships series because I discovered some work I had done, just a few loose pieces of paper. This would be back probably in the 1970s. And I just actually made this video, but there was an error in the recording of it. So I'm having to do it all over again. Prior to the moment that I just made this, which was about, I don't know, an hour ago, I had not read this before. Since I wrote it. So now I can say I read it an hour ago, but other than that, I have not read this since I wrote it. It's titled Structure and Operation of the Arc Crystals Within the Unity Principle. All souls bear the cosmic heritage of a creation star or nature planet. A creation star is the stellar mass formed by a sequential grouping of souls in their first experience after creation. So this is indicating that souls create creation stars, or at least these specific creation stars, right? Maybe not the whole universal spectrum, but I would say that that is so. We need to look at it from this standpoint. I think looking at it from this time frame, as the fact that we create the hologram that is our universe. Now, Thoth talks about us co-creating. He's not talking about co-creating with other entities, or we're co-creating with one another, but I mean, as a group of us, we're not co-creating with some other being somewhere. We're co-creating with Source, whatever that means to you. So in that co-creationship, it is saying that that the creation star is the stellar mass formed by a sequential grouping of souls. It doesn't say created. And I'm receiving as I speak right now. I didn't even get this the last time I read this. Maybe that's why I needed to do it again. Is that they aren't actually creating stars, souls alone in this particular creation star scenario, but they are forming the patterning out of the star essence. That is their creation star. I know that's really splitting hairs there, but I think it's an important point. Those souls with whom they share their creation star are their arc affinities, bearing an affinity to those souls of its first arc or first motion. All souls created in the first stages of the cosmic beam are called light souls. Oh, let me try that again. Only souls created in the first stages of the cosmic beam, who are called light souls, form creation stars. In the further stages of creation are born the nature souls from the life sparks of the first stage. These souls bud together in their first arc families in a planetary mass, creating in nature, and therefore share with their arc affinities a nature planet. Nature souls are not in any way inferior to light souls, nor are they a lesser contingency of the whole. They are merely of a different quality. Arc crystal is an energy unit. An arc crystal, we should say, is an energy unit formed from the unifying energies of a grouping of arc affinities. It radiates the purity of each soul within the unit, not disturbing the individuality of each soul, yet is able in its higher stages of action to work as a non-entity energy, separate from its integral parts. All souls contain the blueprint in cosmic genetic light for their crystal. Yet there are many different patterns of receipt and emission to consider. There are many souls, especially those incarnate on the denser physical planes such as Earth, who only summon the formation of their crystal once in approximately 1,000 lifetimes. There are others who master certain crystallized positions, yet never achieve even 50% input-output. Their reasons for this inconsistency are several and can be found in the laws governing the arc crystal, which are within the laws of the unity principle. These laws are as follows. Now, this is not clear as to whether these are the unity principle laws or the arc crystal laws that are found within the unity principle. I think that's probably what it is, but it's not really clearly stated. And since it was written, probably over 50 years ago, I can't remember. So here we go. 1, there are a set number of arc affinities within each creative first arc. This number is static throughout the soul's experiences. 2, there are myriad positions in which the arc affinities move as pieces on a chessboard, assuming different energy positions in relation to one another and in relation to the whole. They move within 3 fields of action: astral, subtle physical, and gross physical. Now, I believe that I need to qualify this at this moment because the information that I'm receiving now would indicate that what I'm speaking about here, this astral, subtle physical, and gross physical, has to do with the incarnating planes, because astral is part of the incarnation dynamic. So if you were talking about souls that were not in that realm, they were not going through this incarnation dynamic, that wouldn't be the end all. That would be a whole other set, parameters and whatever, not parameters, but fields of consciousness we would be talking about here. So here, this is talking about souls coming into incarnation. And in that sense, we have astral, subtle physical, and gross physical. 3, the positions of the cosmic chessmen assume definitive relationships with the arc crystal of their trans-arc affinities, those souls of their twin ray being the opposite polarity of a soul. Since each soul of an arc crystal has a twin ray, and each twin ray has an arc affinity family, thus in an arc crystal, or the blueprint for one, there is a complicated balance that must arise in matching energies and the relationships in all these crystals. Thus, for each soul, in an immediate sense, his cosmic family contains A, his twin ray, B, his arc affinities, those who share his first arc, C, his trans-arc affinities, being his twin rays arc affinities, D, his inverse affinities, being the twin rays of his arc affinities, and E, his transverse arc affinities, being the arc affinities of his inverse affinities. Family links continue into distant relatives, but this is the main interacting body of each soul. 4, there must always be an exact opposite polarity number between twin arc crystals, meaning that although the positioning within a crystal unit may be in a different sequence from a twin ray crystal, there must be an exact opposite number of negative and positive polarities, male and female, on physical planes. Through the various properly sequenced alignments of the family sets of twin and arc crystals, there being as many crystal sets as there are arc affinities in each crystal, vast energies can be translated into temporal and spiritual reality. There is a 5th law, which I did not include above, as it is imminently grander than merely one law in a sequence of several. This 5th law abides as paramount in the complete scheme of the unity principle and was known as, in ancient records, as the law of one, the primal law. Now, I am quite sure that I would never heard of what is out there in the New Age community as the law of one in the books that are involved with it. I've never heard of that then, even if it had been written by then, which it might have been, because I don't know that much about that series. But this is coming up right out of the Akasha, and I'd never heard of the Law of One before, pretty sure. So it's interesting because possibly the channeled information of the books of the Law of One might almost would, I would think, relate to this Law of One of the ancient times. It may not be exact, but there's a relationship, I'm assuming. To continue, the primal law limits the evolution of all universal energies as a viable source to the infinite boundless boundaries, infinite boundaries, which seems an oxymoron there, of spiritual resonance. So let me read that again. The primal law limits the evolution of all universal energies as a viable source to the infinite boundaries of spiritual resonance. Without the participation of the 7 sacred harmonies, or I could say now harmonics, or rather the stages of glory, universal energies are defunct in dimensional quality, able to act only in a lateral register like a string knotted at both ends, and therefore eventually become, I have this word called toxicant, obviously toxic, with their own distillation. Okay, that sounds completely like mumbo jumbo. But when I read it just an hour ago, and I read it on the video that went bad somehow, I saw the picture of this, and it was like without dimensions. See, these 7 harmonics create dimensions in the universe, we're presuming, in our holographic realm of universality. And without dimensions, we would have this flat string with knots on it, so to speak. I don't know if that relates to the string theory or not, probably not. But anyway, so all it's saying is that the 7 harmonics gives dimension to the universe. And without dimension, we would be like a flat pancake. Okay, so I think that's the meaning there. So that's all I have here. But as I was reading it just a little while ago, I realized, or it was shown to me, that the crystalline DNA and these art crystals have a strong relationship. It's not the same thing, but they're very strongly related, because Thoth speaks about universal DNA. And then there's, of course, genetics and paragenetics. Genetics are family, you have children and they have children, and you pass down genetic traits and whatever. And paragenetics is bringing in genetic energy, traits, consciousness from other lifetimes into your current embodiment, which goes both directions in your family unit. When your paragenetic lineage, when you incarnate in a genetic family, when a little baby is born to mama and papa, and you've got this little child in their family now, that little baby's grandparents, great-grandparents, ad infinitum on to, back to whenever on this planet, are now affected by the birth of that child, as much so as the future generation. And the child doesn't even have to have children to affect the future generation. It's affected at the time of birth. The whole line is affected by paragenetics. So that's pretty powerful. Regular genetics, linear genetics, is like, it's important, but it's just, very one-dimensional. And the other is where it really rocks. You've got this whole blast from the newborn baby to both sides of the spectrum, past as well as future, even if it never has any children. It never procreates itself. Okay, I didn't mean to get so far off in that, but this is really important because, and I have a lot of videos and texts on it and everything, but if you see the relationship between the ultimate DNA crystalline helix of the universe and its genetic and paragenetic abilities in our incarnational scenario here, and you look at the arc crystal and how it forms these patternings of these sacred geometries of crystalline patternings that relate ad infinitum to all these soul families and groups and whatever, you're just seeing that there's an obvious relationship between the two. So I guess that's all I have to say. And I hope this time the video does take properly and I can upload it and put it into the collection. So thank you for listening.